Number 1. Chris Masters. In 2005, WWE introduced us to the masterpiece Chris Masters. A chiseled 22-year-old with a body straight out of an action figure box and a finishing move that nobody could break. When Masters first arrived in WWE, he had the look Vince McMahon loved larger-than-life physiques, and Masters was built like a Greek statue. His Master Lock Challenge became a weekly attraction, and fans believed he might be a future world champion. But there was one big problem. Masters had the body, but not the complete package. He wasn't great on the microphone, his in-ring work was limited, and fans began to see him as more of a body guy than a real star. Behind the scenes, things got worse. Masters struggled with wellness policy violations, which damaged his reputation inside WWE. By 2007, the company released him, and when he returned a couple years later, the momentum was already gone. WWE tried giving him another chance, but the magic just wasn't there anymore. He was stuck in the mid-card, used mostly to put over other talent, and by 2011, WWE released him for the second and final time. This was the turning point. Unlike stars who rebuild themselves on the independent scene, Masters never managed to reinvent his character. He wrestled in promotions like Impact Wrestling and on the indie circuit, but without WWE's machine behind him, he was just another guy with muscles. The sad reality is, his whole identity was tied to WWE's masterpiece gimmick. Once that was gone, Chris Masters struggled to stand out. He wasn't an indie darling like Bryan Danielson. He wasn't a powerhouse name like Drew McIntyre who could reinvent himself overseas. And he didn't have the charisma of someone like Cody Rhodes who could completely rebrand. Instead, Masters became a what-if story. He did eventually show flashes of talent, putting on surprisingly good matches later in his career. But by then, the wrestling world had moved on. He was no longer the future star WWE once hyped him up to be. He was yesterday's project, forgotten in the shuffle. Chris Masters is a reminder that in wrestling, timing is everything. He was young, talented, and had the look, but once WWE fired him, he could never recover the momentum he lost. Without reinvention, without evolution, even the brightest prospects can fade into history. Do you think WWE gave up on Chris Masters too early? Or was he simply never going to live up to the hype? Let me know in the comments below. Number 2. Rikishi. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, Rikishi was one of the most entertaining and beloved superstars in WWE. From dancing with Too Cool, to delivering the unforgettable stink face, to even shocking the world as the man who ran over Stone Cold Steve Austin, Rikishi was a household name. WWE fans knew his name. As a member of the legendary Anoa'i wrestling family, he had wrestling in his blood. By the time he became Rikishi, he had already wrestled in multiple gimmicks, but the dancing, fun-loving big man was the one that clicked with the crowd. Fans loved him, kids adored him, and he was even trusted with big storylines involving The Rock, Triple H, and Stone Cold. For a while, it seemed Rikishi had carved out his place as one of WWE's most unique stars. But behind the scenes, things weren't going as smoothly. By 2004, Rikishi's momentum had faded. He wasn't in main event storylines anymore. His character had become more of a comedy act, and WWE's creative didn't see a future for him at the top. The final straw came when Rikishi reportedly refused to lose weight and address concerns about his health. WWE made the call to release him. After years of entertaining fans, just like that, Rikishi was gone. After WWE, Rikishi wrestled briefly on the independent circuit and made appearances in smaller promotions. But the truth was, he was already past his peak. Without WWE's global platform, Rikishi's character, so heavily tied to the Attitude Era style of entertainment, didn't translate the same way. He tried to reinvent himself at times, even going back to his real name, Solo Fafatu Jr., but fans only wanted to see the Rikishi they remembered from WWE. And without the machine of WWE behind him, his star power quickly faded. Unlike others who rebuilt themselves outside of WWE, like Drew McIntyre or Bobby Lashley, Rikishi never found that second run. Instead, he slowly faded into retirement, making the occasional one-off appearance for nostalgia, but never regaining his status as a top attraction. The irony? Today, Rikishi's legacy lives on through his family. His sons, the Usos, and his cousin Roman Reigns, who dominate WWE as part of the bloodline. While his family thrives, Rikishi's own career stalled the moment WWE let him go. Rikishi will always be remembered for his charisma, his dancing, and his unforgettable character. But the truth is, once WWE fired him, his career never recovered. He became a nostalgia act, forever tied to an era that passed him by. Do you think WWE could have done more with Rikishi in his later years, or was his time already up by 2004? Let me know what you think in the comments. Number 3. Vladimir Kozlov. When Kozlov debuted in 2008, WWE had huge plans for him. He was tall, powerful, and carried himself like a legitimate fighter. Fans were told to believe he was the next Brock Lesnar, and at first, it worked. He went undefeated, crushed popular stars, beat The Undertaker, headlined with Triple H, and was billed as the Moscow Mauler, and even got a WWE Championship match on pay-per-view. But the problem was clear from the start. He had no personality. His promos were robotic, his ring work was slow, and his Silent Destroyer character didn't connect in an era where fans wanted charisma and energy. He was being pushed to the top, but fans never truly bought into him. By 2009, WWE had given up on the idea of Kozlov as a main eventer. Instead, he was thrown into comedy storylines, dancing with Santino Marella, doing skits that made people laugh at him, not with him. And once you go from main eventing with Triple H to being a punchline, your credibility is gone. That was the beginning of the end. In August 2011, WWE officially released Vladimir Kozlov, and unlike other fired superstars who reinvented themselves on the independent scene, Kozlov never found his footing. He wrestled a few matches in TNA under his real name, Oleg Prudius, but it didn't click. Fans no longer saw him as dangerous. They saw him as the goofy sidekick WWE had turned him into. The truth? Kozlov didn't have the tools to rebuild his reputation. He wasn't a master on the microphone. He wasn't a cult indie star. And without WWE's machine behind him, his aura disappeared almost overnight. Some wrestlers bounced back stronger after being fired. Drew McIntyre, Bobby Lashley, even Cody Rhodes. But Kozlov never had that second chapter. Once WWE pulled the plug, his wrestling career was essentially finished. He quietly transitioned into acting, stunt work, and film production, where he's found some success. But in wrestling, his legacy remains one of wasted potential and a reminder of how quickly WWE can build and break a career. Vladimir Kozlov's story is a cautionary tale. If WWE is the only thing keeping your character alive, then once they cut you, the world forgets you fast. His career never recovered after being fired, and it shows just how fragile the wrestling business really is. Do you think WWE ruined Vladimir Kozlov by turning him into a comedy act? Or was he always destined to fail once the hype faded? Let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.